Welcome back to TEW Impact. Um, started just gonna start recording because turns out I had President's Day off and I didn't know, and I especially didn't know until like 3 hours into my shift. So they told me that, and I took a nap, and then I'm like, well, might as well record Impact. Um, I just finished booking everything the day before, so everything's pretty fresh in my mind. So yeah, let's get into it. I feel like we got a lot of news. Not really a lot on our end, just on, everywhere else in the world, as you'll probably see later. Tons of retirements. After I booked Impact the day after, I feel like I had at least like 30 people retiring. But yeah, we'll get there soon. Our numbers, pretty good, actually. We went up from last week for the most part, except for before the impact. TV rating zero point zero 0.01 as always. Overall rating a 23, down from a 28, which I think that 28 was down from something as well. So BTI not doing that great. But we also did a hardcore match that our audience isn't necessarily approving of, so that did a lot. But our impact did pretty well. TV rating of 0.32, up from 0.30. Overall rating is a 47, up from 41, and attendance was 341, up from 319. Couple notes here that 0.32 TV rating is the highest TV rating that we've gotten for Impact so far. Um, Also, a reminder: 2 weeks ago we got that 0.32. So or last week's, and then 2 weeks before that, our impacts are getting the highest TV rating. And then the last episode, our overall rating of 47 is actually our second highest rated um impact, tied with week 4 of June, and then we have a 48 impact of June from week 2. So June was a big month for us. I assume that was the uh Samoa Joe Slammiversary build up. So that got us some good ratings, but even without Samoa Joe, we're getting there. It's just a matter of staying there. Um, Impact news, not a lot. Like I said, on our end, Hikuleo is bulked up to a muscular heavyweight. I think he was like a muscular lightweight for some reason. But now he is a heavyweight. We don't really use him a lot, but something to consider. I know he's working NJPW Strong, so just something to consider if we, decide to push him for once. We did extend referee Daniel Spencer's contract. Debated on it. Considering he only had like 2 years experience, and we had just hired Mike Posey from AEW. Um, is wondering if we needed Spencer, but I figured it probably wouldn't hurt to have him on board. Um, And then for our pre-show, we didn't have any incidents, but I did attempt to do a positive medal between Masha Slamovich and Brandy Lauren to boost both of their morales. It had no effect, so they're continued to be annoyed at their uh, lack of well thought out turned. American news: WWE, Shayna Baszler is now the SmackDown's Women's Champion by defeating Charlotte, Shotzi, and Dana Brooke in a four-way. Her first reign with that title. Um, I don't think like other people's matches tells you like who pinned who in a multi-person, so I want to believe Shayna actually defeated Charlotte, but not that it really matters. We do have a new champion, or they do, not we. Uh, Jordan Devlin extended his exclusive written deal with NXT UK. Guru Raj suffered a broken foot on NXT, out for a few weeks, and now Kaylee Ray officially on maternity leave. Big news in NWA: Cody Rhodes won the NWA Heavyweight title by defeating Trevor Murdoch at the NWA Anniversary Show 74. His second time with that title makes sense. He's probably their biggest star. He's main evented every show that he's been on since signing with NWA. So, and maybe he'll bring that belt to AEW. Who knows? But also, Jim Cornette extended his handshake deal with NWA. Some AAW news I thought was kind of relevant. The Killer Cult in Josh Alexander and Ace Austin defeated Ace Perry and Alexander Hammerstone at the Jawbreaker event to win the tag team titles, their first reign. Thought it was funny considering they're practically feuding now for us. Why did I snort? Oh my god. Oh, I actually just woke up from a nap not too long ago, so you know, work told me I had work off, and I'm like, oh, I should interview Impact, and then I fell asleep for like 2 hours. So, uh, but yeah, Alexander and Austin, tag team elsewhere, rivals here. So, and also a trend you'll probably see this weekend was a lot of events. So there's probably going to be more events and event results in the news. That same show, I thought it was interesting. John Moxley was loaned out to AAW for this show by GCW and lost to Sami Callihan in the main event of this show. So, uh, Switchblade reunion. What was there? Switchblade? I can't remember. There was Switchblade Symphony years ago. But yeah. And then AAW broadcast increased wow, I cannot talk right now. Increased broadcast quality to in-house. So AAW doing fairly well. More American news since, like I said, there was a lot of events going on. AIW hired Bianca Belair to a handshake deal. Like I said last week, Bianca Belair leaving WWE. I just find it funny that AIW is the one that's trying to snap up all these big names. I didn't know they had that money. Maybe the Duke is cooking the book somewhere, but they got Sheamus, they got Bianca Belair. Uh, yeah, Bianca Belair, like I said, someone that we are definitely interested in. So we are going to keep an eye on her. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Keith Lee won the CWH Heritage Championship by defeating Jordan Cruz at Red Carpet Rumble. His first reign. Keith Lee, I believe, has like 5 different like titles. He also has, I guess, like Championship Wrestling is in a alliance, and that alliance has like like alliance specific titles, and Keith Lee has like 2 of those, and then this one, and then I think he's PWG Tag Team Champion, and then maybe Defy World Champion if I remember correctly. So yeah, Keith Lee winning a ton of titles now that he's returning to the Indies. Well, he's been returned to the Indies this year. Shimmer, Rob Naylor extended his handshake deal, and then MLW changed their style from Silver Style Pro Wrestling to Classic Balanced. Um, Something I wanted to mention because I've been considering changing our style, especially since we are getting a penalty for hardcore matches, and I don't want that. So, but I looked, and there's not really a ton of styles that are uh, like right now we're in episodic entertainment. Um, a lot of the styles, depending on how big of a change it would be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a whole year to change over. The only one I could see us going to would be like is called no style, which is basically we can do whatever we want. Um, but that would still take like give us like 3 months of changeover time. And I think we would probably have to do more matches. Yeah, changing our style possibly. But I looked and not a whole lot is poking out to me. Maybe we'll just take the hit on hardcore matches. I really think that's a dumb rule though, especially considering Impact in current day runs tons of hardcore matches. So yeah. International news for New Japan, Juice Robinson has left. His contract has run out. Another name we are probably interested in. Juice Robinson having just left Impact not too long ago. When he was teaming with, or we was teaming with David Finlay for FinJuice, and they were loaned to us, and we let that loan run out. So a good chance we could bring Juice Robinson back in. I don't know exactly where we would put him. If we would put him in like world title contention or X title, but either way, it would be a good name to have on our roster. Tamatanga suffering a partial ACL tear, out for 3 months. Bad news for him, but they had just lost the IWGP titles, so kind of good timing if there was good timing for a injury. And then not necessarily New Japan, but Ren Narita extended his exclusive written traffic. Wow. Contract. Where did traffic come from? Written contract with New Japan Strong. Technically separate companies, but Strong is considered New Japan's developmental, like NXT and NXT UK. They have like the developmental contracts for WWE. So I just threw that in New Japan instead of doing a New Japan Strong um, section. Pro Wrestling Noah, Sugiura Gun has broken up. I don't remember who all was in Sugiura Gun. Um, Momo no Shisun tag of Atsushi Kotoge and Daisuke Harada defeated Katsuhiko Nakajima and Dan Tamura to win the vacant GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag titles, their sixth reign. Those belts were vacated due to Kazushi Sakuraba's retirement. And also, Akuto Hidaka defeated Kendo Kashin to win the vacant GHC National Championship, his first reign. That belt was vacated due to Yoshinari Ogawa's retirement. So Noah, the probably the big offender of giving people titles on their way out and then just having to recrown new champions when they retire. An interesting note, Kendo Kishin is set to retire, so had he won this match, they would have had to do this all over again with if Kendo Kishin had become champ, he would have to retire and turn over the belt. So a good choice there. But yeah, Noah doing a lot. I know like they had like Sakuraba won like the junior tag tournament, and they were already tag champs. But yeah, I think it's kind of funny that they're giving all these old guys like uh big send offs, but then they're like, oh crap, they retire, and now we're left with vacated belts again. So, and then All Japan Kento Miyahara extended his handshake deal. More international news. From DDT, Soma Takao won the King of DDT tournament at Summer Vacation Memories show, defeating Yumihito Imanari in the finals. And then Shinya Aoki defeated Masahiro Nakanishi to win the 040 championship, his first reign. Not sure why I put these in here. I don't really know anybody mentioned in there. It's just, like I said, big event weekend, so it's probably good to mention. AAA, some big news here. Well, maybe not big news, but stuff I thought was interesting. They had AAA, Triple Mania, that weekend, and Los Traidor Clowns of Monster Clown and Murder Clown defeated the Army of Darkness, Carta Brava Jr. the second, and Tito Santana, not the one you're thinking of, not the WWE Hall of Famer Tito Santana, defeated Triple Mania to win the World Mixed Tag Team titles, their first reign. Um, and then Andrade El Idolo appeared on the show and brawled with Psycho Clown, who would go on to lose to Averno in a Mega Championship match in the main event. Averno retaining the Mega title. I, this made me, as you remember last week, Andrade El Idolo signed an exclusive deal with WWE while still being on a handshake deal with AEW and AA and well, AAA. So I looked him up and kind of have like a little mini history here. So Andrade extended his handshake deal on April week 1, then extended his AAA handshake deal on May week 1. He was the Latin American champion in AAA, lost that belt to Phoenix in May week 4, and then basically just floats around until he signs the exclusive written contract in August week 1 and return to Money in the Bank. In a tag match where he lost to Triple H and Sami Zayn. Um, then he appeared on SmackDown, teamed with Rey Mysterio to beat the New Day of Kofi and Xavier Woods. And then he is still appearing for AAA and AEW, but not wrestling for them. So he's appearing in segments, but not matches. So he appeared at Triple Mania in this segment that I just mentioned, and then um, appeared on Dynamite where he got into a brawl with Chris Jericho, and but didn't wrestle him or do anything else for the rest of the show. Looked at his handshake deals, and they look to end at the end of August. I think it says there's like 17 days left, which roughly equates out into 2 weeks, which after the show there will be 2 weeks left in August. So basically, I guess what happens, like if you're signed to an exclusive, or if you have a handshake deal and you sign an exclusive written deal, you basically have a month left on your handshake deals. But technically in in the real world, if you sign to WWE, you're not still gonna be on on TV for competitors, even if you're not wrestling in matches. So this is really weird what's happening, but whatever. It's just a game. Um, yeah, something probably need to be worked on. Retirements, tons of retirements, like I said earlier. Only two announced, or at least two major ones. I think there were a few more that I didn't recognize. Judge Jeff Jones and Dave Meltzer. I don't know how Dave Meltzer is going to retire from the business. At least Brian Alvarez was wrestling, so and he retired, but I think he's still around. But official. This is gonna be a long list. Masanobu Fuchi, Onita, the Steiners, Bob Holly, Bushwhacker Luke, Honky Tonk Man, Rikishi, Tommy Rich, Tetsuhiro Kuroda, Shane Sewell, Johnny Curtis. Again, Johnny Curtis was someone I was going to bring in before he announced his retirement. Probably just gonna say it right here. I was going to bring him in as like the uh opposite version of Dalton Castle, like how Dalton Castle is like fancy. I was gonna bring Curtis in as like Dirty Kurt, so he was gonna be like grungy but still weird, basically how he is now. But he is basically gonna be like the anti Dalton Castle, and they were gonna feud, but then he announced his retirement, and uh, that never happened. And now I'm gonna trying to figure out where to put Dalton Castle in my in the grand scheme of things. Uh, Michael Modest, Kazushi Sakuraba, Malia Hosaka, Randy West, Nyla Rose, D Ray 3000, Tiger Ali Singh, Ken Dixon, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, Atlantis, Sumi Sakai, April Hunter, La Rosa Negra, The Boogeyman, Scoot Andrews, Great Kojika, Sting, Yuji Nagata, Too Cold Scorpio. Another thing about Too Cold Scorpio, if you remember a couple, I think it was Against All Odds where um it was Swerve versus Mance Warner for the X Division title. The original plan was to bring Too Cold Scorpio in for a one shot and do Swerve versus Scorpio for the X Division title. But I forgot. I had to scramble. Mance Warner went in there, so Mance Warner could probably thank Scorpio, or at least me, for getting to sign him for his, him getting on TV now. The Godfather, Mohamed Yone, Tim Storm, Angelina Love, Masaaki Mochizuki, Buff Bagwell, David Young, Quishan Bokaman, Sorry Young Ed, I will not be able to book Questionable Comment, at least not in a wrestling capacity, as he is now retired. Angel Orsini, Lady Tapa, Alex Porto, Bruce Tharp, Yoshinari Aragawa, El Samurai, Tatanka, Coco Beware, Flying Kid Ichihara, Miguel Perez Jr., and tons of others. Like I said, at least like the Friday after booking the last Impact, I think the list of wrestlers retiring was like here, and then there were like 20 others that I didn't recognize. So, and then the rest of these happened throughout the week. So, lots of retirements this week. Other miscellaneous news, Ron Killings joining the Hall of the Immortals. Divorces. Divorces going on in this game. Bray Wyatt and JoJo Offerman have divorced. And Kevin Eric and his wife, who I looked up and I looked Kevin and Von Erich up on Wikipedia, and apparently he's been married since like 1980, before I was born, and are like business partners. So this game like really hates, people being married for some reason. That they're going to split up a marriage that has lasted longer than I've been alive. Um, and then a death, Paul LeDuc. Um, I looked him up, really only notable for being the kayfabe brother of Joe LeDuc up in Canada. Um, but yeah. And then we go to Before the Impact. We get a match between Willie Mack and Raj Singh, kind of stemming off of comments made last week where the group of Singh and Shera and Willie, or not Willie Mack, Falaba, approaching Willie Mack to join, and he just, wants no part of it. Uh, so a match was made. Willie Mack wins, I think, with botched interference from Shera. But then after the match, it turns into a 3-on-1 attack. They stomp down, flatten Willie Mack, and there's no one really there to save him. We get a interview segment with Gia Miller, uh, interviewing Willow Nightingale. Willow debuting last week in a losing effort to Savannah Evans. Um, Gia asks her how she feels, and Willow's maintaining like a positive attitude about the whole thing, talking about how she's still new, and she still believes that things, as long as she works hard and keeps positive attitude, that things will go well. She is interrupted by Quinn McKay, Rachel Ellering, and Roxy, who say they watched her match last week and they like her attitude, and they know that there's strength in numbers. You've seen it. Basically had a 2-on-1 last week, which resulted in your loss. But the point is, if you ever need someone to watch your back, just call on us. We will be there. And Willow is, pretty accepting of it. Kind of, she's only been here a week and already she has friends. So, uh, not a good segment because if you remember last week, I don't know what I did, but Gia, I don't know if I forgot to mark her as unscripted or didn't mark her as scripting, but I got she can, she did well with improvising. So I didn't, check her for this segment, and then you're like, "Oh, well she didn't do well improvising." So that hurt the segment. So uh unfortunately not a good segment there, or at least a good rating for that segment. We get Masha Slamovich and Diener arguing with Killer Kelly. Kelly having cost Masha her shot at the digital media title last week. They're arguing when they're interrupted by Gail Kim and Zhao Zia, who basically announced that at the pre-show for Emergence, that uh, Zhao is willing to defend the digital media title against both of them at at the same time. So Zhao Zia versus Masha Slamovich versus Killer Kelly for the digital media title at the pre-show for Emergence. And then we get the learning tree of Avery Good and VSK defeating Dalton Castle's boys, where and then where basically I think I had Black Taurus coming out to interfere, costing the boys the match. And then the post match angle is Taurus and Raywalt beating down the boys. Dalton Castle runs out, chases them off, and is basically standing in the ring um, for the match to begin Impact, which we will go into in a second. But Dalton Castle versus Steve Macklin to start off Impact. Overall rating of 4 or not 43. Geez, if we got a 40 for before the Impact, I would be shocked. But overall rating of 33 for before the Impact, which is an improvement over last couple weeks. So let's go to Impact. We start off Impact like we ended before the Impact with Dalton Castle versus Steve Macklin. Match made last week. Macklin putting down the challenge after being pinned by Castle in a six-man the week before that. Um, Dalton Castle starting off the match after having saved the boys from a beatdown. Macklin coming out, um, using that to his advantage because Macklin ends up with the win. Says with a foreign object, but let's imagine it's more of a handful of tights as he pins Castle. Kind of want to keep this on the technical side, and also maybe trying to push Macklin a little bit after kind of treating him as a joke in that whole X Division storyline he had a few months ago. So a win over Dalton Castle, a cheap win, but a win nonetheless, and a rating of 45, which is a good start for tonight. Robert Evans doing some good work at ringside. And then we basically go over to ringside where both Matt Stryker and Robert Evans are basically jaw jacking mostly Ian Riccaboni. And Brennan Williams gets up and stands and protects Ian from any harm, even though they don't really expect any harm to come from Matt Stryker or Robert Evans. But Brennan Williams proved the hire, proving to be good. Um, this was mostly just a last second addition. I needed to pad out the show a little bit, and we haven't really done a lot with the whole Stryker Ian Riccaboni relationship and hiring Brennan Williams beyond just a color commentator. So I just threw this in there, kind of just to keep things fresh-ish between all them. But basically, Stryker and Evans showing how they are boastful and until faced with an actual uh, obstacle in the form of Brendan Williams. So segment rating 32, not bad for them. And then we go elsewhere to the dark, dank, wet, dirty um, secret location where the gospel of violence um, have been located the past few weeks. Basically, Father Bateman talking about how the uh, the metamorphosis of the gospel of violence is complete. Um, and we basically see that PCO has been beating the shit out of Brody King for basically a week straight. After having been beat himself for last 2 weeks. So basically, the plan is to just have Brody and PCO kind of come together after having been torturing each other. But basically, the gospel of violence, born through violence, molded by violence, um, and are planning to return soon. Segment rating of 30 for that. We get Joe Hendry coming out to the ring. Um, I had another segment planned on before the impact, but I didn't have room. Where basically CPA kind of gets reminded that he's fired. And, even though Joe Hendry's music video attempt last week was a noble effort, did not do anything to get him rehired. So Hendry kind of mentions that. He's like, put all my heart and my soul into that video, and I was kind of hoping that that would speak to or Impact Management to rehire CPA, but as far as I know, that has not happened. I have not heard anything. Eventually, Brian Myers comes out to interrupt Hendry, and he talks about, well, speaking as I'm the one that trained CPA and everything, and um, I went to uh, Gail Kim and asked for a match at Emergence, you and me, and if you're able to defeat me, I am willing to do whatever it takes to get CPA hired back as much as you want him to be hired back as well. So Myers not taking too kindly to Hendry's remarks last week, but is kind of claiming that, hey, if you're able to beat me, I'll work with you to get CPA rehired. So CPA's job possibly on the line at Emergence. Segment rating of 34. Storyline is gaining heat, which is good. And then we get the the mercenaries. I forgot I named them the mercenaries. Uh I needed a different name and I did not give them a better name. But basically, Mercedes crew, the Tasha Steele, Savannah Evans, and Janai Kai, defeating the Positiva team of Quinn McKay, Rachel Ellering, and Roxy. When Tasha Steele's submitted Roxy, I imagined it more of a pin because basically Martinez interfering, Tasha Steele's uh, taking advantage, getting the pin over Roxy. Um, this is turning into an actual storyline, which I probably should have set like at least a few weeks ago. But basically, again, strength in numbers. Mercedes Martinez versus the Positiva team. Segment rating of 31. Quinn was off her game. Um, but yeah, decent. I was kind of hoping it would do better, but basically after the match, it turns into a 4-on-3 brawl, which it has before, but now the odds have been evened as Willow Nightingale comes out for the save. The numbers are even. She turns the tide. The positive team um, ending up on top, or at least Mercedes and her crew willing to bide their time till a later time. But a good outcome for the Positiva team. Willow Nightingale officially joining their ranks after the invitation of them having her back on Before the Impact. Now it looks like she has their back and is confirming, and a new member of the crew, I guess you can say. Sigma rating of 24 for that. And then we get a backstage promo from Jordan Grace talking about how she doesn't really care about Su Young uh, returning to Impact until she returned and cost her husband a match against Rich Swann last week on Impact. She tried to get her hands on her last week, and that wasn't happening. But she wants to get her hands on her at Emergence. So Jordan Grace laying down the challenge. Jordan Grace versus Su Young. Su Young's first match since I don't know having her. She had her baby. I don't remember when that was, and I don't know when her last week in Impact was, or last match in Impact was. It was definitely before 2022. So I would have to look that up in the build up for the match, even though the match is happening uh, at Emergence. But 28 rating for that of Grace calling out Su Young. And then elsewhere backstage, we basically get a brawl between Joe Doring and Lance Archer, a preview of what is to come at Emergence. Joe Doring laying down the challenge last week after weeks of Archer calling him out. And now Archer is getting what he wants. He wants a fight. wants it from Joe Doring, and they're getting into it and having to be pulled apart backstage. But the real fight will be happening at Emergence. Segment rating of 42. I did look up Doring. I know, like last week, it said he was, uh, I wouldn't say like failing physically, but had trouble keeping up. Apparently, his head damage is or his head status is in like the 50s for some reason. Everything else is fine. He had, injury a couple months ago that a small injury that he healed from. So don't know exactly why Joe Doring is not particularly delivering in the ring, but hopefully his match with Lance Archer at Emergence will do the trick. Lance doing well for us so far. Hopefully he will, I guess, pick up the slack if there is any slack. And the storyline is gaining heat, which again is good because it's probably been losing heat lately. And then we get um Viper defeating, basically squashing Brandy Lauren and Aspen Rose in a handicap match, basically a continuation of the past couple weeks where Viper squashed Aspen, Viper squashed Brandy. Now this match was made to see if she could squash both at the same time. Turns out she can. This was another chance for Aspen Rose, and I don't think we are going to bring her back because she was off her game, and they don't work well as a team. Um, they're both probably, I guess, fairly inexperienced in this game. But bringing Aspen as a local worker, um, and I was debating bringing pairing them up as a team, but if they're not going to work as a team, then why bother? But this was partially a tryout and then partially a way to get Viper over again, hopefully by squashing talent. But segment round 26, this hasn't really worked out as well as I would have hoped. But after the match, we get Rosemary coming out, uh, fighting, attacking Viper, her opponent at Emergence, and basically chasing her off. So somewhat of a save. Segment rating of 37, but overall, this kind of, you know, even though we're bringing in former WWE talent to face Rosemary, this kind of all feels like a step down for her, unfortunately. But we'll see how the match turns out. I know I haven't exactly given Viper the greatest quality caliber of opponents. Then we go backstage where Homicide goes up to Gail Kim and is talking, and Homicide, she's like, I gotta level with you. You know, I saw you took Colby Carino out of the arena, you know, security threw him out. I need you to go wherever he is, go back and find him and bring him to me. And Gail's like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? He's like, look, you got two options. You go out, you get Colby Carino, you drag his scrawny ass back here, you give him a contract, and I beat his ass in the ring at Emergence, or you don't give him a contract, I'll go find him, beat his ass out in the street, and you're gonna have to bail me out of jail. So basically, Homicide laying down the ultimatum. He wants Colby Carino at Emergence, um, and settling wants to settle things. Colby Carino having interfered in a number of matches and attacked Homicide from behind for what he perceives to have done to his father. Um, but Homicide wants the match and he wants it at Emergence. Homicide improvised well. I don't remember having Homicide improvise or unscripted, but he does well. But the segment lost heat, which is kind of a bummer. Segment rate of 28. We'll see how that match goes at Emergence. And then we get Jake Something coming out to the ring for a promo or whatever. I didn't necessarily have this planned, or at least planned out well. But basically, Jake Something coming out, um, leading to an ambush from Eric Young and Damien O'Connor. Damien O'Connor, Jake Something's opponent for Emergence. Eric Young behind the whole thing. So it's a 2-on-1 beatdown. But eventually Rhino comes out, and eventually Heath Slater comes out. So Heath and Rhino. Rhino hasn't been seen for, a few weeks after losing to Damien O'Connor. Heath was injured. He is back now. So they seem fresh and rejuvenated, and Jake Something has friends back on his side once again. So, hyping up Jake Something facing Damien O'Connor at Emergence, but he won't be alone. He'll have Heath and Rhino at it, having his back. Segment rating of 34 for that. And then we get a promo, well, not a promo, but basically a hype video for Jeff Jarrett. Um, Jeff Jarrett having a challenge laid out to him by the Impact World Champion Josh Alexander. Uh, Josh Alexander laying out a title shot for Emergence for Jeff Jarrett. All Jarrett has to do is accept. Will he accept? He is here. He is in the building. He has been, thinking. He has, been thinking in solitude in his personal locker room, whatever, what have you, about the choice he has to make. And we will hear from him later tonight. Segment rating of 45. Again, something else that kind of pad the time, but, if we're going to pad the time, at least get a decent rating out of using Jarrett. Now we got Speedball Mike Bailey versus Madman Fulton. Bailey sticking up for, his buddy, the world champion, Josh Alexander and Ace Austin, having the Impact World title shot hanging over the whole situation that he has been taunting about cashing in whenever he wants. But Speedball defeating Madman Fulton in a match. Ace Austin attempts to interfere by using the briefcase. Bailey moves. Austin clocks Fulton with the briefcase. Bailey gets the win. Segment rating of 40. These two didn't seem to click, but whatever. More so to get continue to keep Ace Austin and Mike Bailey in the peripheral of the whole Josh Alexander program we got going. Madman Fulton, mostly a casualty of that. I've been debating why even keeping Madman Fulton for Ace Austin. Ace probably could do well on his own or with a better second, but whatever. Mike Bailey getting the win. That's what matters here. And then we go. Well, this can be anywhere, but basically, Maria Kanellis talking to W. Morrissey. Morrissey, or she saw what happened last week, how Morrissey and Bennett were unable to put egos aside, work together. They could have defeated the Wolves. They could have had a tag team title shot, but their egos would not let that happen. So that experiment is over. She gets it, but she has to remind Morrissey that he signed a contract for her, to be employed by her and her crew, basically. So he can't just big boot her husband whenever he wants and just walk out on Maria and Maria Canal LC and the vision she has for Impact. She has Morrissey's contract. But what she's willing to do is put Morrissey in a match, not tonight, but at Emergence against Michael Bennett. And if Morrissey can win, she's willing to make the contract null and void, free Morrissey, he can do whatever he wants. He can leave, you know, no strings attached. All he has to do is defeat Michael Bennett at Emergence. So, segment rating of 41 for that. If Morrissey can beat Michael Bennett, he is free from Maria's contract. And then we go backstage where basically Chris Bay has ambushed Swerve and is basically posing and playing with the X Division champion, looking at it and then, dropping it on Swerve's prone body and saying he will take it at Emergence. A simple and effective, well, I don't know how effective it was because the segment lost heat in the storyline. Segment rating of 37, but basically Chris Bay proclaiming that he will be X Division champion by the time Emergence is over. And then we get, yeah, I think, yeah, this is an interview segment. Gia Miller interviewing Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green, the BFFs, talking about how they attacked the Knockouts champion, tag team champions, attacked them from behind last week on Impact when Tennille tried to talk to them and they tried to talk to Tennille. And basically, Gia alluding to, is this a shot, you know, a statement, an intent at the Knockouts Tag Team Championships? And they're like, of course it is. And we're laying down the official challenge right now. Us versus the Inspiration for the belts at Emergence. Jessie McKay and Cassie Lee come up and are basically down with the idea, you know, them proclaiming to not been having real uh, uh, competition here in Impact, I guess. So what this has all been boiling down to: a title match at Emergence, the Inspiration defending against the BFFs, segment rating of 35, the Inspiration teasing face turns. We will see what happens at Emergence. And then we get a promo, pre-match promo from the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. And they talk about how, yeah, it's not like we've been putting Trey Miguel and Sam Beal in these matches to, delay the inevitable, if you can say that. We've been wanting to put them through the ringer because if they want to face a team like us, they're gonna have to be able to keep that pace. They're gonna have to raise themselves up to our standards because, this match tonight, if they're not prepared, they're gonna get beat down. You know, they're inexperienced, you know, they have a lot to go through if they want to be considered to be taken seriously on the level of teams like us, teams like the Wolves. And they do get like snide in remarks, and it's like, there is a reason why Detroit tends to overshadow Toledo, all the time. They call Toledo Detroit Junior, because all they want to do is, latch on to us and our prestige, but that's not going to happen. And if you're not careful, we're just going to prove to you that you're not ready. Um, Again, this was another segment to pad out time, but I figured, hey, we need, some sort of better build up toward this match at least. Segment has lost heat for the best team in Impact history storyline. Segment rating at 37, a decent promo. We go to the match, and Rep 419 gets the shock victory. Trey Miguel pinning Alex Shelley with a quick roll up. Alex Shelley going probably for some sort of submission, like the Border City stretch of whatever. Um, Cockily, might I add, and Trey is able to take advantage and get a roll up. Segment rating of 39. Um, Not a great match, but kind of to be expected considering Sam is still fairly inexperienced. Sam struggling to keep up with everyone else. But Trey also seemed off his game, which is kind of unfortunate. But what this means is that Rep 419, by defeating the Motor City Machine Guns, get a tag team title shot at Emergence. The Wolves come out with the belts. As, the Guns leave, the Wolves come out. They face Trey and Sam and basically settle it with a handshake, but know that Trey and Sam are probably going to be in for a huge fight. Big test, probably their biggest match of their careers. Tag team title shot against the Wolves at Emergence. And then to end the show, Jeff Jarrett comes out. with a microphone, no guitar, no real like pomp and circumstance. He has a solemn look on his face. He comes out and with the microphone, he's like, the first thing I want to do is I want to call out Josh Alexander. Uh, because what I want to say to him, I want to say to him face to face, man to man. Josh comes out, and Josh is like, okay, what do you have to say? Are you going to accept the challenge? Whatever. Jeff is like, well, first of all, I took off last week, not because I wanted you to cool down from this situation or whatever, not one because I wanted to distance myself, but because I had a lot of thinking to do, and I've decided that I'm going to be retiring from wrestling, which, the crowd is bummed out. He's like, you know, I get the message. I came to Impact. This is the place I built. I wanted to see it thrive. Um, but you've alluded to it. People have alluded to it. But the business has passed me by, and as much as I want to be a part of it, I just can't keep up. And time comes for us all. We all slow down, and it's my time. I gotta I just gotta go home. I'm done with wrestling. But as for your challenge, if you're gonna call me out and you're gonna, put the title on the line, you're damn right I'm gonna accept. So I'm not retiring yet, but I will accept that Impact World Tag Team or World Championship match, and I will beat you because I am the King of the Mountain. And whatever happens at Emergence, win, lose, or draw, that will be my final match. So I'm going to be as, prepared as I have been for anything in my life. And Josh, you better be ready to face the King of the Mountain at Emergence. And I hope you can defend the title. Slap nuts. Maybe he doesn't end up. I don't know. Maybe he does land it with slap nuts. But we have a match. The big match. Josh Alexander defending the title against Jeff Jarrett at Emergence. Win, lose, or draw, this will be Jeff Jarrett's final match. So, segment rating of 44. I was kind of hoping that would do a little bit better, but didn't do too bad. 42. I think that might be a little bit of a drop. We did lose popularity in two regions. Um, no real negatives, but nothing super shocking, I guess. The best match probably would have been Macklin versus Castle to start off the show. Everything else just kind of held steady. So before we go, let's run down the emergence card with open office. Impact World Championship title match. Josh Alexander defending against Jeff Jarrett. Win, lose, or draw. This will be Jeff Jarrett's final match. Knockouts Championship match. Rosemary defending against Viper. The Knockouts Tag Team Championship match. The Inspiration. Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay defending against the BFFs, Deanna Prato and Chelsea Green. X Division Championship match, Swerve Strickland defending against Chris Bay. The Impact Tag Team Championship match, the Wolves of Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards defending against Rep 419 of Trey Miguel and Sam Beal. Michael Bennett versus W. Morrissey. If Morrissey wins, Maria Kanellis will free him from his contract. He will be free to do wherever he pleases. Lance Archer versus Joe Doring in a big hoss match. And another big hoss match, Jake Something with his buddies Rhino and Heath versus Damien O'Connor with his buddy Eric Young. Homicide versus Colby Carino. And Jordan Grace with her husband Jonathan Gresham versus Sue Young with her husband Rich Swan. Pre-show matches, Digital Media Championship match, Zhao Zia defending against both Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich in a three-way. Masha having Diener have her back. And then the Learning Tree with Brian Myers. Brian Myers versus Joe Hendry. If Hendry wins, Nick Stapp, CPA, will possibly get his job back. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if, the word of Brian Myers stands strong or if he is even willing to let Joe Hendry win this match. I doubt he will be, as disingenuous as Brian Myers can be. He probably does not want Nick Stapp back. But we shall see how that plays out, how Emergence plays out. Thanks for joining me. I gotta go. My throat hurts really bad for some reason. So, thanks for watching. Take care.